Is motivation a farce? Everyone has a favorite Madonna song, and in honor of her 60th birthday, we pick our favorites. It's the Focus Group.
It's the savvy side of 9 to 5. Listen.
Bueller, Bueller, Bueller.
Laugh. And learn.
Negotiation. This is what you do in business.
This is the Focus Group with Tim Bennett.
Staunch.
And John Nash.
Keep your clothes looking neat and clean.
We're all business. Except when we're not.
Welcome to the Focus Group. John Nash with Tim Bennett, my good friend and co-host. Got that reversed.
Well, you know.
Welcome to the penultimate weekend of summer. How often
that
do we
word?
My SAT word. Everybody knows penultimate means the next to last. Although in my previous ad career, I thought it meant the ultimate.
Right.
One above
The
ultimate.
top.
Yeah.
The penultimate.
The penultimate. And here's our penultimate creative solution. Everybody in the room would laugh like it's the next to the last.
Second best.
Second best. Hey, find us here every week on YouTube and Facebook Live from 1 to 2 p.m. or focusgroupradio.com is our website where you can find all the platforms we're on, including our audio, which is our podcast. And thank you, everyone, for continuing to listen to TFG Unbuttoned, which is released on Tuesdays. We're very pleased with how that's going. And next week, we have a very special broadcast. You know, when people say a very special show or a special broadcast, it usually means something like, you know, it's Karen Carpenter's coming on or it's a Christmas show. But Tim found a great road trip we're going to be doing, and it's called Pursue Your Scoops. We're going to be visiting 12 creameries, dairy farms in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, and we're doing an ice cream tour, basically. And it's something that the PA Tourism Council kind of created, right?
The Department of Agriculture put it together, and there's 12 different locations. It's actually Lehigh County down into Lancaster.
Okay.
So there are some Amish, as my father would say, or Amish.
That's the last time I heard it was your dad doing Amish.
Some Amish farms as well. But we plan to pay with twos the whole way. We'll see what happens.
So far, the two experiment is showing that, and here's our official Pursue Your Scoops a Focus Group road trip with the VW All-Track wagon. And I think we're going to be driving my All-Track, maybe? Is it?
Yeah, we're going to do a long-term test drive. So a lot of the cars John and I had driven for Volkswagen were new models or models that had just been released. But John and I have had these All-Tracks now for going on 2 years. And so a lot of the buff books, whether it's Car and Driver, Motor Trend, those sort of books, will do long-term testing. So we're going to talk about things as the infotainment center, the fit and finish, how our gas mileage has improved over the years, what it's like to sync the different electronic or technical devices through the car. So just an overall review of the vehicle.
Yeah, so,
as well as sampling and finding the best vanilla ice cream.
And we're not sure. We may have the pups along.
Yeah, the
Trixie
dogs
and
may
Spike.
come.
And I would actually welcome them because I think you said something like that. A lot of these places have pup cups.
Yeah, pup cups for the dogs.
A little tiny ice cream sampler for the dog.
It may be their last road trip. I mean, it could be a nice thing for them. Well, they're old dogs.
I know, but it's kind of like when Bob
13
and I.
and 15.
It's kind of like when we moved into our apartment back in April. I said, "Well, Bob, this is it. This is the last apartment you're ever going to live in."
You did not.
I did, because it's probably true.
Why did you say that? Were you being serious?
And he laughed and he said, "I know what you mean. We're going to be taking out feet first."
Oh, Bob,
I mean,
this is
the last apartment in Manhattan. I mean, think about it.
You're unbelievable.
I do have a strange mind. I'm going to admit that. But
isn't it great we have this new apartment, Bob? Isn't it great we bought a place in New York City? Isn't it great where this is the last place you're ever
going to your last apartment
first.
You better like it. Well, you know, the way I see it, I started in Brooklyn when I left college. So if you think about going south to north, up.
Yeah.
So then it was into Manhattan at 28th and 7th. We used to live right across from FIT, not far from where we're doing that show. Then it was 88th and West End Avenue, which is going further uptown. And now we're all the way up towards, the bridge. And so the next stop would either be somewhere out of the city or the cemetery.
Connecticut. Same thing. Are you God's chosen people. Yeah. When I visited you right out of college, though, I thought you were in Manhattan.
We were in Brooklyn Heights at the time.
Is that when Jay and I came? Remember those people from France just showed up?
Yeah. Oh my God, that was Paul's friends. Family he knew in France or something, and they were like, "Ah, bonjour, bonjour." Paul says we can.
You
stay
opened the
with
door,
you.
and all of a sudden there were these people from France that were going to stay there. And I remember you saying, "Well, we're sleep on the couch."
They had a little odor.
They didn't know any English, but they laughed at all your jokes.
They did, and they would buy cigarettes and bite the filters off with their teeth. I do remember that, and they'd spit the filter out. You'd be like, "What are you doing?" "Ah, we hand roll our. In France, you have Galois. Galois has no filter. It's tobacco." Crazy.
Jay and I still laugh about that weekend.
It was
hilarious. I think we went and we bought steaks, and we thought we were really adult. We had steaks and baked potato. And, that was Brooklyn. I don't know why I thought that was.
It was right across the bridge in Brooklyn Heights. Yeah, because I lived in the Heights, then I lived in Carroll Gardens, Park Slope, then back to the Heights.
Greg lived with you too, with the three of you. I don't know how you got things done then, because there were no cell phones. You might have had an answering machine if you had a half.
Are you kidding? It was all answering machine, and everything was about
write a letter or something.
The almighty code. You dial your own phone. When the machine picked up, you hit the star, like the asterisk thing, and you had to. And if you forgot your, then and it would rewind the machine, and you'd boop. We're gonna meet at this bar, or sometimes you couldn't hear the machine. Like, no, I don't know where we're meeting. So yeah, life was run by answering machines and quarters, and payphones. You had to get to a payphone.
Well, what I thought was great about it, though, there was none of this. I'll be there in a second. I'll be there right now. I'm running late. It was you're going to be there at 1 o'clock. You're there at 1 o'clock.
That's it. There's
no more discussion about it.
And if it was a bar you were showing up at, and the bar was dead, didn't matter. You had to hang out till your friends got there, and maybe the jukebox was cool. And then
over the weekend, someone might say, "Hey, on Friday night we're doing a happy hour at XYZ."
Yep.
And that was it. Mm-hmm. Now it's Texas.
One of our favorite locales was a place called Bandito's. It was on Greenwich Avenue.
Was that the place that was all yellow?
Mexican restaurant.
Yeah, you took me there at midnight for dinner.
Yeah, and the margaritas were basically made of gasoline or whatever. It was like high test, cheap vodka, cheap tequila. Sorry. And by the time the food came out, you weren't really sure what you ordered, but you knew it had refried beans in the mix. There was a brown sludge on the plate.
I just remember you taking me there, and you were trying to be a New Yorker very much so, because we went to eat at about 11:30, 12 o'clock.
It's very Barcelona, actually.
I said, "John, this is not when you eat dinner." "Oh, no, this is New York. This is how you eat dinner." I was like, oh, my God, I was dying at 6 o'clock for dinner, let alone wait until midnight. You like this shirt?
I do like that shirt.
Story about this shirt.
Oh, I'm sure. Is there a story about this shirt?
So I was down in Rehoboth Beach, and I had to go to Walmart to get a
plunger. No, make it up. What'd you have to get?
I get a mouse pad. So there's no Target or nothing down there. I needed a mouse pad for my desk.
Oh, okay.
How many of those over the years I've thrown away? I don't know.
And how many we've gotten for free?
So I got to go buy one for $10. So I was there, and I'm wheeling through, and I saw this clearance rack of shirts. So who doesn't love a bargain? So I went and I looked, and this shirt was on there, which I thought wasn't too bad.
Looks great.
$5.
Oh, now it looks like $1 million for $5.
I put it on this morning.
It's your broadcast shirt. That could be a broadcast.
This morning, I said I'm going to go buy some more if I'm down there again. They're probably all gone now.
You better, yeah. Well, get more colors, and then.
Well, they only had this. This is blue, and they had a black.
Okay.
And I don't know if you're wearing my approved blue today.
What is this, royal blue?
Royal blue.
Royal blue, okay.
Yeah.
And it looks good on the camera.
It does look good. Actually, it looks better on the camera than it does on you.
On me.
It's lighting.
This is the way the penultimate weekends of the week of summer rolls. Little jives, little bars. Oh, I love your $5 shirt. You look at $1 million. You look better on camera than you do in real. Yeah. All right, quick one for you. We were in town this weekend, which is... in the summer in particular, that's kind of rare, but we were in town for a wedding, and I found out that this past Saturday was the biggest wedding day in the country's, like in the country.
All wedding days, it was the biggest day.
$2 billion were spent on weddings, and 30,000 couples got married, and the average wedding had 136 guests.
What was the big deal about?
8181. I think it's 81818. So it's
August 8th.
August 8th.
No, August, which would be the 8th month.
8th.
The 18th.
2018. Yeah, exactly. So 8-1.
18.
All right, so John, go to the earlier, okay. So my friend Lucas married his beautiful fiancée, Stephanie, and I think this couple is off to a great start. They don't know this yet, but they're going to know now, and I'll tell you why. First, the wedding took place at a place called the Marble Collegiate Church on 5th Avenue and 29th Street.
Whoa.
Beautiful interior, very cool. But Tim and I know this church for a very specific reason, because outside the church, and who used to probably preach or give their talks here, is a statue of a guy called Norman Vincent Peale. Now, if you're a fan of the show, you may know that Tim profiled him one time, because I think the Trumps used to sit in on his services, right?
A lot of people did.
And
somewhat like that Tony Robbins kind of guy.
Motivational, inspirational speaker. But we were introduced to Norman Vincent Peale through Grey Gardens because Big Edie and Little Edie listened to his radio broadcast. Yeah. And he'll say things like, try, really try. Think, really think. Believe, really believe. So Bob and I are like, okay, this Lucas and Stephanie are off to a great start.
Wait a minute. Did they pick this church? Did they go to this church?
No, but they picked the Marble Collegiate Church because it's really cool space, and it's right across the street from where they had their reception.
Does it have a religious denomination? Is it Protestant? That was my guess.
I'm not sure. I think it might, maybe, could it be Catholic. Presbyterian, possibly?
I'm sure he's not Catholic with the way he preached.
No, I don't think it was.
Yeah. Was there a religious service?
There was the traditional wedding service. The wedding, there was not a mass or anything, but it was
Protestant.
Probably.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we go to the reception, which was amazing. And I know this couple's off to a great start because we sat at a table, and that's the next slide, with the screenwriter or the guy that did the screenplay for one of my favorite science fiction movies, Contact, with Jodie Foster. And the guy's name is James Hart. He also wrote the movie Hook, and he wrote a movie called Epic. And
so what was he doing at the wedding?
He's a family friend of Lucas's, Lucas's family, I think. So I'm like, hey, I'm next to the guy that wrote Contact. Super nice, lots of fun. In fact, the table we were at, all our cards had Yankee Stadium on it. We were the New Yorkers. We're the New Yorkers. Because a lot of people came from out of town.
I was going to say, was he from L.A. or was he?
He's from here. He's from New York.
Did you know? You obviously didn't know he was going to be at your table.
Nope.
And how did you know who he was?
He looks like somebody, and then finally I saw someone hand him a DVD to sign. The guy knew he was going to be at the wedding, and he signed a DVD for the movie.
You're like, what's that?
I was like, my beep, 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 beep. The antenna went up. I'm like, this is Hollywood royalty. You got to figure this one out. Nice guy, super great. And last but not least, how do we know this will be a successful marriage moving forward? Stephanie gave Lucas a Millennium Falcon groom's cake. Now, the groom's cake is a tradition I haven't seen done in a long time. So we're at the reception. Suddenly, they start playing the Star Wars theme.
Oh, my God.
And they roll out a Millennium Falcon, which was entirely edible.
Nothing like a gray cake.
Nothing like a gray cake.
Happy wedding.
So, and the last bit that tells you this was a great wedding.
Wait, was that a cake you could eat?
Yes, you could eat
on that thing?
Yeah, you could eat the groom's cake. That was the Millennium Falcon, yeah. And last but not least, how do we know this is not only a great, fun wedding, one of our top 3 we've ever been to, but also it's going to be a successful marriage? Bob danced. Bob got up and danced at the wedding.
Did he dance with you?
Danced with me, danced with the bride, danced with the groom. Yeah, he was having a ball.
Did they have a band or a DJ?
Live band, band.
This wedding cost some money.
That was my Saturday.
Live band in New York at that big church.
Part of my Saturday. I will say one last thing.
Cake?
When we came out to wait for the bride and groom to come out, they didn't throw rice or anything. Everybody had little bottles for blowing bubbles. So as they came out, all these tour buses are going down Fifth Avenue, and all the people are staring and taking pictures. And I'm standing there thinking, take pictures. I'm a New Yorker. I'm at a New York wedding. And as they came out, all these bubbles are blowing up. It was great. It was a lot of fun. And I know that you and I have been to a lot of weddings.
Yes.
And that's why I said this is one of the top 3. I mean, in terms of the energy, the crowd, the bride and groom are fantastic. Just a lot of fun. And you've been to some fun
ones.
Guy
Lucas was the one that you did. He was in your animation.
My animation program, yeah. He was in school.
So obviously you two had a connection for science fiction.
Oh, yeah. And actually, when they were here in December, when they were sampling all the food for their wedding, we had Stephanie and Lucas up to the apartment, and the minute Lucas and I got together, it was one of those chatter animation things. And Stephanie and Bob are like, animation widows, poor things. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Need to say more, right? Anyway, great time. Was it Brian's wedding?
Brian Johnson wedding.
Was that one of your top that you thought was just really well done?
Well, it was like a Martha Stewart wedding in a very beautiful way. It was beautifully done. It was actually out in Lancaster County, and it was on a farm, and orchestra, tented. I mean, it was just very, very classic.
You had fun.
Very well done. Yeah, it was. And I left because I wanted to get back into Philadelphia, so I didn't drink as much as maybe a lot of people got hotel rooms out there, but. It's one that I wish I had stayed at longer, but I had a great time. But it was a beautiful wedding. It was magnificent. And what I thought was special about it is the minister who performed the service actually really knew
The two of them.
Well and told stories about them growing up and about what it was like when they were little. And so it really was
Yeah.
believable and authentic, more so than somebody saying, oh, let's just get married, and they don't know who the pastor is sometimes, or the minister.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of common. I think it's more common than the minister actually knowing the people.
Yeah, well, that's why I thought it was interesting, because I was like, wow,
that adds a nice layer of. So that was part of my weekend. But back to the show. What caught your eye?
What caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
Well, this one, this happened last week. Well, it's been going on for, they think, 15 years. But two sisters.
Oh, they think. Okay.
So there's two former school cafeteria workers, Joanne Pasquarelli and her sister Marie Wilson, were charged with stealing nearly $500,000 from the New Canaan school system. They were the cafeteria gals, and one worked the middle school and one worked the high school. And at the end of the day, they both controlled the till. But they would never tell anybody at the end of the day. They said they would count the money. So the other people who worked in the school cafeteria would leave, and they would count the money. And over the last 5 years, out of the high school, Ms. Wilson got, they think, about $350,000, and her sister out of the middle school picked up $127,000 over the 5-year period. And
What?
yeah. So kids would pay for their lunches or pay for cookies or milk or whatever they're getting, and they were skimming a little bit every day. So it wasn't like they were taking a lot of money. So
What do you think the skim was?
well, so they're saying they think that this has been going on for at least 15 years. So both of them were arrested. I love this. They were both accused, both arrested last Monday. The one of the sisters said that the only thing I'm guilty of is feeding a hungry child who had no money. I might have given away a cookie or two over the years. And then the other one said that she would never do this sort of thing. I don't live a double life. I know better. That's their defense. So they said this occurred over such a long period of time because it was such relatively small amounts. The district was unaware of the discrepancies. Of course, this is New Canaan, Connecticut, where it's a very affluent town. They didn't miss the money, obviously. Can you imagine? You missed $500,000.
Like, where are the checks and balances on this, right?
So they said it wasn't until recently that they put in a new collection and depositing system at the cafeteria where they started realizing that there was some discrepancy in the in what was brought in and what was coming in and what was going out. So they said since they've left their jobs, the average cash register at the middle school, for instance, was always below $40. In the last 2 weeks, it's over $150. So they were figuring they were taking $50 to $60, $70 a day, both of them, over.
Did they leave their job before the charge was levied?
No, the police came to arrest them. They got let go, and they said they're being charged with theft, and that's when they said they didn't do anything.
But then after they left, the registers began showing a daily take of $150 or something.
Instead of 40 or 30.
When they were there was okay.
So, but that's the tough thing, is they're trying to prove nobody saw them take it, but they know the money's missing. They're the only ones who counted it. Since they've been gone, the money now money's coming back up into the.
Do they have the right to
so maybe they're serving
check,
bologna
like,
sandwich?
savings accounts, or this could all be cash in a bag somewhere, right?
Oh, it's okay. It's all cash.
Oh, you can't. That's going to be so hard to do that, to prove that, right?
Both of their attorneys say that there may have been some irregularities, but they know right from wrong. They're both released on a $50,000 bond. Joanne's 61, Marie 67. They live in Stratford, which is another town in Connecticut.
They attend the Shakespeare Festival on a regular basis, and they have medieval costumes that are very expensive.
Can you imagine? So anyone who doesn't know, New Canaan is really a tight-ass town. It's probably one of the wealthier towns in the country.
Yeah.
So you could just see them saying, I'll take $50, $60. And they said one of the sisters would always, whenever large bills came in, she'd come and take them because they wanted to make sure they weren't large bills in the register. But they could never account for where the money went.
I'm remembering back to our school days when we paid for things. There was just like a change, like practically a cigar box.
Well, now I'm thinking it probably happened everywhere.
Well, let's hope not, and let's hope the honor system reigns supreme. But I just remember being very crude. And I don't remember you could ever make a fortune off a 15-cent little milk thing. 'Cause sometimes if you brought your own lunch, you had your milk money.
No, but if you figure the average cafeteria worker was making probably back then $2-3 an hour.
Yeah.
And if you could take $5 a day, $10 a day, right? For the week, that's an additional $50 times how many weeks and over
52,
how many years.
Yeah. I'm just having a complete sidebar to this. Is we had a cafeteria. Now we went to separate middle schools because we were in our towns merged at the high school level, but Memorial was my
Wealthy
middle
kids
school.
went to prep school.
But we were public. And in our lunchroom, we had a red light bulb that was up near the ceiling, and there's a switch. And the rule was that if an assistant or a teacher was in there monitoring lunch, and if things were unruly, they would flick that light bulb. That red light would go on and off. And the rule was, supposedly, the principal had an identical red light bulb in his office. And when they did that,
Principal was coming.
he was going to come on down and stop things. Well, one day, John Sheehy, the troublemaker, who I love John Sheehy, he was great. He and I are sitting at this table. He goes, Nash. I said, what? He goes, I was in the principal's office the other day. He goes, that red light does not work. It doesn't work. He goes, it's not connected to nothing. He goes, it's connected to nothing. And I said, are you sure? He goes, yeah, I'll prove it to you. He goes, food fight. The whole room goes crazy. And this woman's flicking the thing, and people are throwing those ugly wax beans. Remember those yellow wax beans? She's getting pelted with beans. Kids are screaming and laughing. The bulb's going, the flash. Nothing's happening, right? Eventually, someone wanders into the room, like a teacher, and like, what's going on? Oh my God, we got to get the principal. That's my little
The red
story.
light was a farce.
It was a total behavioral control farce. They told us that, and we believed it until John, who knew the principal's office quite well, might I say.
So you Middlebury kids just had a little light. We had some very
Did you have sophisticated?
very strict monitors. I remember Mrs. Files and Mrs. Parcell, and if you were out of line, you get cracked in the head, or she hit you with a ruler, or she pulled you by the hair, pulled you by the ear. There was no messing around. There was no roughhousing. There was no nothing. We had no red light.
You had the sophisticated.
You were the Middlebury
switch with
kids.
The red
light.
That light's going right to the principal.
We were just afraid we were going to get whacked.
All right, that's a little far afield.
Do that.
Far afield. So, what caught my eye was a movie that I've never seen before, and I should have, because I laughed from start to finish. I think you will too if you can find it. It's not really easy to find. It's not really available anymore. I found it used somewhere. I ordered it the other day. We were having dinner at a friend's house on a friend's apartment on Friday night. Our friends Ed and Rafat, and after dinner, which was great, they're like, "Okay, you get a selection of movies. We're going to watch a movie." And they had some, and then they said, "How about Die, Mommie Die?" Now, have you heard of this movie?
No, is it a spoof?
It is a send-up of I would say Mommy Dearest, All About Eve, like a send-up of all those kind of Hollywood, those starlet movies, right? So we're like, well, let's watch Die, Mommie Die, starring Charles Busch. Now, do you know Charles Busch?
No.
He's a female impersonator, and when he does impersonation, he does like starlet, like big Hollywood style.
When did this come out? Do you know?
You know, I want to say it was either 2004, maybe.
Oh, it's newer.
Or it could have been in the late 90s, 98.
Is that him as a man?
That's the act. That's Charles Busch as a man, and then there's the poster for Die, Mommie Die. I think that was from the Sundance Film Festival. Charles Busch plays cabaret siren Angela Arden, no longer in love with her husband, Philip Baker Hall, who's hysterical and is disconnected from her children, in an attempt to escape her marriage so that she can be with hunky layabout Jason Priestley, who shows up in the movie. She poisons her husband when she begins to suspect that her daughter and gay son are also sleeping with her paramour, Jason Priestley, and they in turn begin to suspect their mother had a role in their father's death. Everything begins to fall apart. It's got elements of Bette Davis movies in it. It's got elements of Joan Crawford. I mean, he imitates that whole
Did you
stuff.
watch the whole movie?
Start to finish. Could not stop laughing. At the end of the movie, the back of my head hurt from smiling and laughing so much. There are hilarious lines in there. And then Bob goes, I remember Charles Busch. Well, Charles Busch did a play he did several, but off Broadway, he did a play called The Lady in Question. It was hysterical. It takes place during World War II, and there's a scene where they're escaping the Nazis in the Alps, and they had these skis nailed to a board, and the board was angled. And the actors, her included, him as this, and they go back and forth. And we remember, and then they shuffled something from the ceiling to make it look like it was snowing. So it's this campy, funny, but Die, Mommie Die. If you can get a hold of it, you're going to die laughing. John, I think I put a trailer in there.
I haven't heard of this.
The most unusual motion picture in years. Starring Charles Busch in Die, Mommie
That
Die.
looks like Mommie Dearest. Right?
Yes.
Screen siren Angela Arden. You've heard the rumors, you've read the gossip, but now for the first time, the real story can be told.
Your mother is a sorceress.
She's a witch. Nothing but trash washed over the Canadian border.
Prepare yourself for a shocking tale of blinding ambition, forbidden love, and murder.
Kill mother.
All captured in color and told against the backdrop of sensational Hollywood. And introducing a new star in young Mr. Jason Priestley.
You and I made some heavy promises, baby! Get out!
Yes, Angela Arden's back, and she's ready for her close-up.
This time, it's for me, for me, for me!
So I think you get a good idea of
Hagen.
what we're doing with this.
Paul Hagen.
So I highly recommend that. Thank you, Ed and Rafat, for introducing us to that. It was a very successful
There's
night.
a movie you didn't know.
It's got, Tim, it's going to be a movie that once you see it, it's going to rank up there with Mommie Dearest, with Grey Gardens. There's some great lines in it. And Charles Busch does a great job as this Angela Arden, so hysterical.
That's wonderful. All right, business birthday.
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
You know, John, you can get rich on the little things.
On the tiny thing. You could get
Tiny things.
Tim, get
Tiniest things. Little things like a mouse trap.
Feed the mouse.
Feed the mice. They might grow up to be rats. Celebrating. He's not celebrating. He's dead. He died in 1906, but he was born today, August 22nd, in 1827. Ezra Butler Eddy. He's listed as a Canadian businessman and political figure, but he really was born in the United States, and his lineage goes back to Miles Standish and lots of the old Puritan stock in New England up in Vermont. And Ezra Butler Eddy was not interested in really going to school or anything, so he went to New York City when he was 15 and worked for a merchant for like $3 a week and learned the business of selling eggs and cheese and that sort of thing. Didn't like New York City that much, wanted to go back to the rural confines of Vermont. Went back up there and began manufacturing wooden matches, of all things.
The kind that we all know and love, right? The wooden match, a little red tip, whatever, right?
And so in 1854, he was making matches in his kitchen. He moved to Canada to make them. I don't know why he moved to Canada, but he went up to Quebec when he was only 24. He began producing the matches using discarded wood from the nearby sawmills. He and his first wife made them in their house. The business grew rapidly. He grew to become one of the largest match manufacturers in the world, the Eddy matches. Of course, I laugh about this. His empire was worth, at that time, over a couple $1 million, but it was destroyed by fire.
When you were researching this, you cannot make that up. Okay.
So the whole business burned down. Whole business was consumed by fire. He ended up with a net loss of $250,000, but he rebuilt. He had the help of some insurance companies. He rebuilt the enterprise, and by 1886, he had reorganized into the E.B. Eddy Company and also started doing timber rights and made a bunch of other things out of wood stock, like pails and buckets and so forth and so on. And he ran for political office and became mayor of Hull. But then again, in 1900, there was another fire. Lost everything. Burned down again.
Started by an Eddy safety match, no doubt, right?
So the fire, he lost $3 million in this fire. He said, in spite of the fires, or they said, in spite of the fires, repeatedly repeatedly ravaged his factories and his house. But they said he persevered, and being an astute industrialist, he rebuilt again. Wiped out twice by fire.
Is there a third
match
wipeout?
company? Well, he ends up dying in 1906, and they sent the body back to Vermont. And he was buried there, and there's a plaque. But they said the Eddy Match Company is still today one of the most major match manufacturers around. And one of the second slides here, now they're known to do a lot of these things. When you go to restaurants, see those little match.
Yeah, I still love.
I love those.
I love when restaurants give out those little like match things, the vanity match.
So it's still based in Canada, still one of the largest match manufacturers in the world. But I thought to myself, matches.
Yeah.
Now, of course, you got to be careful not to burn the place down twice. But
did you ever play with fire as a kid?
Happy birthday, Ezra. No.
I got caught playing with...
You weren't allowed to do all that.
I had a Revell model of the Hindenburg. We glued it together, poured gasoline on it, and I wanted to recreate the burning of the Hindenburg, and I hung it from a string, lit it on fire. The thing, whoosh, and then it melted and expanded, and my mom catches wind of this. Dad gets home, and she's like, John's playing with fire. You want to play with fire? You want to play with fire? So they gave me this Maxwell House coffee can, an empty can, and I had to sit with a big box of wooden matches and strike every match into the can until the entire box of matches was gone. I was so bored. By the end of it, my dad's like, yeah, are you done playing with fire? I'm like, I'm done playing with fire. But I was actually burning the Hindenburg, which is different than playing with fire, right? Another story. The red light in the...
That sounds to me like something that you would do. I don't want to hear stories about your father again, because I could see you doing it. You want to play with fire? Here's a box of matches.
Gav, have at it.
So you did it?
I sat with the can for a while.
Did you cry?
I didn't cry, no. I was... my father was first confused. Like, what were you doing? I said, we had a Super 8
Hindenburg.
I had a Super 8 movie camera, the kind you wound up.
I think it's...
I said, I wanted to recreate the burning of the Hindenburg. Okay, but your mom said you were playing with fire. I said, well, the Hindenburg burned. See how your logic lines up with mine,
Next we're going to do Pompeii. Watch out for the house.
Volcano goes off. I like the Pompeii thing.
You know, I think it's brilliant. If my kid did it, I'd be like, you know, well, Hindenburg did it.
Nowadays, you'd give him a gold medal, but, you know...
You weren't allowed to have an imagination at the Nash House.
We had no negotiation. You did what you were told. There was no negotiation. Again, no negotiation. Eat your peas or it's going to show up as a blended drink next morning. If you didn't eat your vegetables, my dad blended them, and then you had to have it in the next mornings.
He blended them?
Got in the blender, yeah. So you had
to drink it?
Yeah. My mom put a stop to it eventually, but it did.
Did you drink it? What did
we would take a sip or two, and we were like, I'm sure it didn't taste that horrible. I mean, you're talking about peas or broccoli. It's not the worst thing in the world, but yeah, you know my dad.
We had to eat it all. You didn't leave the table.
Oh, that was what it evolved into. So eventually the blender was out, and now you had to. And I remember the time Laura sat at the table for not eating her peas for I think 4 hours.
Yeah, my brother would hold out too. He would just sit there. Not me. I would get it down and go.
Nowadays you see parents.
As you can tell.
You see parents negotiating. You don't like your peas? Do you want a pretzel?
Can I make you macaroni and cheese instead?
Do you want a pizza instead? You know, just eat them. All right, well, moving on. As many of you know, Deep Discount is a partner of ours here on the Focus Group. And they have a special code for Focus Group watchers and listeners, and that's FG15. So for the month of August, and we're in the penultimate month, the week of the month of August, and that's the new word for today, the next to last week. So I suggest you go to Focus Group Radio, click on the Deep Discount logo, fill your card up, and get 15% off with the code FG15. It's a one-time use only code for the month of August, and it's good for everything except games, game consoles, and game accessories. So this month, so remember, FG15, and if you order enough, you usually get free shipping, so it's a bargain all around. I went and we picked a sale called the Under 10 and Budget Sale. And there's a lot of stuff to find on the under.
I spent way too long on it.
I could go. In fact, if you just filled your cart from, and maybe you do this, you fill your cart up, you watch the movies, you hand them off to other people, or you encourage them to order it from Deep Discount as well. But the movie that I picked is one that I was introduced to by Bob, actually. I knew the movie, but when we were dating years and years ago and it was on TV, he made me watch it end to end, and I fell in love with it. And it's the original It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. Classic movie. And I printed out the list of the comedians and famous actors. Spencer Tracy, who was in his later career at that time. Milton Berle, Sid Caesar, Buddy Hackett, Ethel Merman. Oh, my God. Mickey Rooney, Dick Shawn, Phil Silvers, Terry Thomas, the British guy with the gap in his teeth, Jonathan Winters, Eddie Adams, and Dorothy Provine. So that was the all-star comedic cast of the 50s, 60s, I guess?
Yeah. It's they play it every once in a while.
1963 movie came out. You could get it for $6.91.
Oh my gosh!
I say run, don't walk, right? So I picked It's a Mad, 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 Mad
It's
World.
one of those like the Wizard of Oz. You should have it in your collection, and it's one of those too. I know people. I think there's also, if you'd want to spend a little more money, there's a 50th anniversary edition.
Okay.
But it's the sort of thing where I've done this with a lot of movies, and this is why Deep Discount is great. I loan them out or borrow them. You don't get them back. So you gotta.
Yeah, it's true.
You gotta add them back into your collection. I picked something that I don't have, and I'm a fan of the Munsters. But this popped up. It's called Munster Rarities, and it's never before seen footage. The very first pilot, which was unaired, some outtakes, some commercials that they did, because they did a lot of commercials for the show, and commercials for other consumer products, as well as some promotions. And so I was poking around to see the original year that the Munsters came out was 1964. And this was released in 2015. It's $6.69 for the DVD, so it's nothing, right?
Well, you can get Mad World for $6.91.
Yeah.
Get this for $6.69, right?
So I was poking around just a little bit about the Munsters, and they said that the same writing duo that created the Munsters is the same team that created Leave It to Beaver. And I never knew this, but they essentially said the Munsters were just Leave It to Beaver with Dracula and Grandpa.
And Frankenstein.
They said Eddie was really just the beaver with pointy ears.
And
when you think about it.
Marilyn, who was the normal one, right?
Normal one, but they said the reason why they used these characters, first they wanted to go up against the Addams Family.
Okay.
But because CBS or Universal Studios owned the rights to Dracula, Wolfman, and Frankenstein, they didn't have to pay any royalty or copyright fees. So that's why they used those characters. But they said they really just made them be Herman was a typical working dad, carried a lunchbox. He imparted homespun humor. Mother was caring and nurturing, even if she did roast a hyena in the oven. And the grandparent had a laboratory in the dungeon, but lived with the family, and it was a slice of down-home Americana. But so this DVD touches on a lot of that stuff. And I won't go through it all, but the one thing I did laugh about, Fred Gwynn, and this is known, he hated getting dressed like Herman, and because the costume was so heavy. But they said in one of his rare appearances in the New York Macy's Day Thanksgiving Day Parade,
as Herman,
he and Al Lewis, Grandpa, were in the Munstermobile escorting Santa Claus down in the parade in full costume, which they hated. He said Fred Gwynn confessed that I was taking slugs from a bottle of whiskey the entire time because I had to be bombed in order to say hello to all those little kiddies for 40 blocks. He said the suit was so painful and heavy, and he said he had to wave to all the kids, and they're bringing Santa Claus down. They said they were drinking whiskey all the way down in order to get through the day. But
it would have been interesting to know the temperature of that Thanksgiving Day parade, because sometimes it's very cold. So the whiskey could be a little warming too. But
that costume he had was so hot that they finally had to pump air into it because he would lose 10 pounds a month because he sweat so much. It was 40 pounds of foam, and he wore asphalt boots that were 4 inches high to make it so he couldn't stand, and so he could clump around.
Now, I was a Munsters fan. I later found the Addams Family, but it was a little too late because we had really grown up with the Munsters. Yeah. I don't know if you're the same way.
Yeah, we were. What was the new release?
New release this week is the movie Deadpool 2 on Blu-ray. Deadpool, of course, stars Ryan Reynolds. Have you guys seen are you the Deadpool fans?
I've seen it. It's a good flick.
Yeah, I heard it was. Everybody loves them, the first and the second one. Supposedly great versions of bringing Deadpool to the screen. I haven't seen it yet, and are you a Deadpool fan?
No.
I like Ryan Reynolds though, so
I haven't watched it, but I could be, I guess.
Well, do you want the synopsis?
Yeah.
Marvel's potty-mouthed mercenary.
I like that already.
Already we're on board. Anti-hero is back in this laugh and action-packed sequel. Deadpool assembles a team of mutants called X-Force in order to stop cybernetic time-traveling soldier Cable, played by Josh Brolin, from killing Russell Collins, a young mutant who will murder Cable's family in the future. Okay, I'm a little confused, but what could possibly go wrong when Deadpool and Cable are forced to put their differences aside and work together? So it's time travel, it's superhero. What's not to like?
Right up your alley.
It's Ryan Reynolds. What's not to like,
exactly.
Right?
Hey, so be sure to go to focusgroupradio.com, click on the deep discount logo. This week we were doing our under $10 budget movies. And there's a special code, FG15. You got to use it before the end of the month, August 31st. It's a one-time use-only code. Good on everything except games and consoles for additional 15% off. It's FG15. John recommended it's a mad, gotta say it 5 times, world.
It's right.
And I recommended the Munsters, Munster Rarities, and the new release this week is Deadpool 2. Right, Garrett?
Thanks, deep discount.
So stay with us. John had found this great article. It says, it asks the question, have we been lied to all these years about motivation? So we're going to talk about that article, and then later on the show, we're going to pick our 5 favorite Madonna songs in honor of her 60th birthday. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Brought to you by Volkswagen. Visit VW.com to learn more. Focus on the savvy side of 9 to 5 with the Focus Group.
Try, really try.
Listen, laugh, and learn with Tim and John.
I never try anything. I just do it.
Welcome back to Focus Group. John Nash here with my good friend and co-host Tim Bennett. FocusGroupRadio.com is our website. Go there to find out all about our weekly broadcast, which is live on Wednesdays from 1 to 2 on YouTube and Facebook Live. And, of course, you could always download our audio at Apple Podcasts, Google Stitcher, Google Play. No, that's not Google Stitcher. It's Stitcher, Google Play, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, there's a podcast available. And be sure to check out our Tuesday show Unbuttoned. Okay, so before we went to break, Tim teased this story that I had read. I think it came from Forbes magazine, actually. And the author wrote the following headline: "We have been lied to our whole lives about motivation. Here's the cold, hard truth." And to sum it up, he looks at a bunch of movies at the start of the article and says everybody thinks motivation is when the coach comes in, the team is down, it's the second, the last quarter of the game, whatever, and he's going to give a rousing speech and the camera pans around the room and everybody's like tentative, but then as the speech goes on, they get fired up and suddenly the whole room's cheering, so's the towel boy, they run out into the field like the Mighty Ducks or something, or the hockey rink, or Happy Gilmore, whatever, and they win the game. But he said he's calling BS on that because that's actually not how motivation. He actually says that's not motivation at all. That's just a Hollywood thing. And motivation in real life doesn't show up that way. Your take?
Yeah, well, initially as I was reading it, I thought I agreed with it. But then as I read further along, I didn't agree with it.
Really?
Yeah, because so after he says that's just a sugar high, that pep talk that you described, and you run out and you're the hometown hero, that's just a Hollywood version of motivation. He says his advice was try something different and more realistic, which is set a goal, outline a plan, and then execute the plan. And so when I read that, I said, well, how is that any different than the coach going into a locker room and saying, we want to win this game. The offense needs to do a better job of paying attention to what's going on in the defensive end. We need to double team the quarterback, whatever you're going to do, and then we're going to go out there and keep focused on that goal, and we're going to win the game. So when I read about how he said, oh, motivation doesn't work, and then they go back along further in the article and talk about how if you were looking for a job or you were doing an assignment, and even if you get burned out on it or you're tired or you don't feel well, you need to keep doing it and doing it and doing it. And
yeah, so that was actually...
but I thought that was different than... One of them I thought was very singular, a very singular event. If you said you wanted to write a book...
Well, you have to be motivated to write the book, or so the theory says. You're driven by desire and motivation to write that book. But I think his point is, and I took away a different takeaway because I feel that this is very, very true what he said. I know many people who will say, I'm going to look for a new job. I'm going to get that resume done. I'm going to shine up my LinkedIn profile, but they're waiting for that right moment. The spark that goes off, or the motivational moment that says, I have clarity, I'm going to do this, and it's going to happen this way. His point was, it's kind of like the 10,000 hours of doing anything long enough, you become an expert at a certain topic, or that's that theory that people kick around about practice, practice, practice. His thing is, no, motivation probably factors very little into getting a new job because you have to do a lot of repetitive stuff all the time. Resume, network, and it's boring, and it's just a slog. And the motivational part of that is you want a food on your table and a roof over your head, but it's not the big pep speech. I guess that was my... Yeah,
and that's where I disagree with you, I guess, because I think the pep speech is motivating a group of people as a team for a goal is very different than one person being motivated for a singular event or a singular thing. So if you said you were going to look for a new job and say, okay, my goal is to look for a new job, I need to do this, this, and this, and here's how I'm going to execute it. It's very different than telling a team, get out there and be confident and pull it off. I don't know. I took it that way.
Yeah. Well,
Because
what about
a lot of the examples in the article were very singular and individual versus the premise up front of, well, this team talk thing doesn't work.
Well, one example he gave, which I thought was funny, he said, there's an entire industry of self-help gurus such as Tony Robbins that write books and offer expensive seminars and programs designed to help you become motivated and successful. These products and services tend to help the gurus earn vast fortunes for themselves, and we hardly ever see the attendees on the cover of Forbes or Wall Street Journal. So that was a funny thing, because you think of how many people attend a Tony Robbins seminar, right?
Right.
If it was just a matter of learning, of getting that indoctrination or learning how to be motivated or whatever, they would all be walking out of there being success stories in no time flat, right?
Right. But that's where I think there's a conflict in it. I think there's a conflict of having a team of 60 people in a room that you're getting motivated to go out to do something versus you got to look for a job that's going to take you 6 months and you need to do the slog to do it. That's all.
True. All right. So an example there would be, we used to work for a company. We had our show on a company that they were the sales team under certain management years and years ago was yelled at constantly. So the motivation was anti-motivation in some ways. But they would say, if you're here at your desk, you're not selling. Get out. So the salespeople go out and just have lunch with friends. So I guess in that sense, you're not going to get motivated, or you're going to be motivated to not do anything or something. But if you flip that around and you had a really great inspirational or a guy that was a good salesperson, could get a team to believe that, yeah, I'm going to make those calls today and they're going to be good or something. So I guess that...
Yeah, when I was in college, we had... I was on the rowing team, which was I will say, a nationally ranked rowing team, so it was quite good. But there were a couple of races that we knew that we had no business going to and probably would not win. And our coach had worked with a woman who was an East German sports psychologist.
You tell me this story. I like this story.
But what she would do I remember it was before Georgetown University, and before Purdue University race, two very big rowing teams. She set us in a room, turned the lights down low. It was nice and cool. This was Friday before the race on a Saturday. And then just mentally took everybody through what was going to happen tomorrow. She goes, here's what's going to happen tomorrow. And went through everything from
getting the boat in the water.
You get up to you bring the boat on the water. And this is what the river's going to be like. This is what the conditions are going to be like. And this is how the race is going to go over 2,000 meters. And she had done this for the Olympic teams in the Eastern Bloc back in the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s, with a lot of success. And whether it was crazy or not, she would do it every other week. And we would win races we had no business winning. And whether there was something to that in a different way, motivation, I think, versus, I don't know if that's a mind thing.
So is that actualization versus motivation, where you see yourself,
or visualization,
self-actualization or visualization? Yeah, better. That's probably the better word. In fact, that's probably what I was looking at. Visualization. See yourself as the winner. See yourself as the champion. I don't know if I think of that as motivation, though.
No, I don't think it's motivation, but I thought that, for me, I responded better to that because that was...
Than the pep talk.
Pep talks, we never got pep talks in rowing. Our coach just wasn't like that. It was very, very supportive, very nurturing on the water but on race day. There was no pep talk. There was nothing. It's like, you know what you need to do, get out there and do it, sort of thing. I'll respond to that negative yelling, screaming sort of thing.
Whether it's good or bad, it's just someone yelling or screaming. I agree with you. And I know when I've done certain cycling events and stuff, when I'm training for it, my friend Adam, who coaches me, will often do the visualization thing. You have to see yourself at this speed. You have to see yourself, rain or sunshine, enjoying what you're doing, whatever. Yeah, so I don't know that it's... he concludes this motivation article by saying you will have to get used to striving for a goal and doing all the unpleasant work while not feeling motivated. It's not easy, but nobody ever became successful by taking the easy path. So perhaps your dissection of this is accurate in that this really trailed into self-motivation.
Yeah, because you framed it up perfectly. I don't disagree with the premise. I disagreed with, I didn't think the front of the article matched the back end.
So he's talking about motivating a team to win, a group of people, versus the motivation it takes to get a personal project done or to find a new job, which I do have a disconnect with. One is just that, yeah, I think you're right. There's a difference. And
yeah, I just thought there was a difference, but I do agree with the premise of setting the goal and
slogging towards it,
and then making sure you execute it properly. So,
alrighty.
Hey, we're going to take a quick break. Last week, Madonna celebrated her 60th birthday. It was also the day that Aretha Franklin died, as well as
the same day Elvis Presley passed away.
But, in honor of Madonna's 60th, John and I found this article that listed the 60 greatest singles of all time. But she's got a lot more than that. So we decided we're each going to pick our top 5. And surprisingly, we only overlapped on one. So find out what our top 5 favorite Madonna songs were in a couple seconds. Stay with us.
Brought to you by Volkswagen. Visit VW.com to learn more. Focus on the savvy side of 9 to 5 with the Focus Group.
And in business a week, I got more money than I know what to do with.
Listen, laugh, and learn with Tim and John.
Herrera Rocher. He is doing well.
Drops. He calls the imaging drops. Hey, welcome back to the Focus Group. John Nash with Tim Bennett, my very good friend and co-host. FocusGroupRadio.com. Visit the site. You'll learn all about us. So as Tim teased, we say, before the last break, Madonna turned 60 recently, and, prior to going to this...
I got yelled at for the pictures, by the way. If you're on our Facebook page, I got yelled at for one of the pictures I picked.
What is that one?
No, it's a different one. If you go to our Facebook page, you'll see even a different one. But I just typed in Madonna 60, and a bunch of images came up, as you can see.
So one thing that me and Tim have been talking about a great deal since she turned 60 was the fact that I'm not quite sure, and I had this debate with friends of mine last night, that a career as long as hers could exist in today's social media-drenched, one-hit wonder, no one buys albums anymore world. I mean, she managed to put out the hit albums, and yes, there are times when you thought Madonna, like maybe after Like a Prayer, maybe Madonna's not going to do another, but every couple, boom, 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 boom. Could that happen again?
I don't know, and there's lots of debate in the music world about it, because that's the picture that I put up, and everybody said, boy, could you find a worse picture? But what do you think of that picture, boys?
It's a pretty bad one.
I mean, I like her teeth.
Isn't that ridiculous, that grill she has in?
Yeah, that's pretty silly.
Crazy. But anyway, poor Madonna. But I think you're right that you used to buy albums and listen to a body of work, and now if you hear a song you like,
that's it.
Lady Gaga gets compared to her a lot, right? So if you like the Lady Gaga song, you're more likely to just pick the song she liked and download it for 99 cents or $1.29 and not get a whole album and listen to it because you don't have to.
Right.
But we sound like old folks again, but
I
like having the body of work.
It's a change in the music industry, and there are songs that Madonna... In that list that I was thinking it was
it's called Pink News.
Pink News did. They chose 60 of her. They claim her top hits, but I would just as likely say that there are many songs that were not on that list that were on the albums that I happen to like.
Right.
They might have bookended one of my favorite ones. You got used to hearing it. Maybe you didn't like it at first. Maybe by the third or fourth playing of the album, you're like, yeah, I like this song. So I just think it's cool. So why don't you tell us some of your picks?
Well, I'll run through my 5, and then you can do your 5, and then pretty quick. I like this because I liked the way the video was, and I liked the movie, but it was probably not one of her more popular songs, but Hanky Panky.
From the
from the Dick Tracy movie,
where she starred with Warren Beatty, and I think that's where they began having. They were dating for a while.
It's a little, soft S&M sort of song, kind of poppy, and which I love. Another one I like, and it might just be because I was exposed to it when I lived in Minneapolis. The song "Deeper and Deeper" was off the Erotica album, 1992. I loved the song "Swim" from Ray of Light in 1998. That wasn't on the top 60.
No.
But I like that song. And then "Into the Groove," 1985, off the Like the Virgin album. They actually picked this as their #1 Madonna song of all time, the Pink News.
I think it. Do you think
it has everything?
Yeah.
They said it has pop and the music and the danceability and the riffs and whatever. And then my all-time favorite out of the Breathless album, or on Breathless, was Vogue, which came out in 1990. And of course, supposedly in Pose next year, there's a resurgence of that, or one of the storylines is going to revolve around Vogue. I found a quote there. What does that say?
A lot of people are afraid to say what they want. That's why they don't get what they want.
There you go. I really had a hard time picking 5, and actually I had a whole different group of 5. When I was on the train coming up, I thought if there were another 5 that I didn't include here, and they're all just as good. But
did you write them down?
Yeah, it was "Express Yourself," "Hung Up," "Beautiful Stranger" out of the Austin Powers movie.
Yeah.
Just because I like the way she acts. "Don't Tell Me" and "Jump."
"Beautiful Stranger" is actually a great song. I like that song. So you and I overlap on Vogue. I think the video, I think the song itself, it was all stitched up into a really great little package. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, around the time Vogue came out, before or after that famous movie, the documentary Paris is Burning, came out about the drag balls and everything. One of mine is "The Power of Goodbye" from 1998's Ray of Light. A total, to me, so typical of what I like to listen to, the movie "Cherish" from Like a Prayer. Cherish. It's such a pop. Yeah, exactly. It is such a bubblegum pop song. I mean, for me, it's got all the buttons that that work for "Cherish." Right behind it was one that you liked as well, which I think was written for Sean Penn. And it's the song "True Blue" from 1986's True Blue album. And True Blue is another one of those, poppy, hey.
Oh, I laughed when I look at your list.
I thought you might have had a good laugh. And I actually loved 4 Minutes from the 2008 album Hard Candy, which was Timbaland as the producer. And of course, she's with Justin Timberlake.
Now, this one shocked me.
Really? Really?
Because that, to me, is so, other than Your Little Crush with Justin Timberlake, if he wasn't in it, would you have liked the song? Because it's a rap song.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought she did a good job. And the video is pretty cool, too. This whole folding
I don't
thing.
see you listening to rap.
Well, it was the only song like that on the album. I mean, Timbaland had some other...
But that shocked me. Was there anything that shocked you on my list?
Nope, not at all.
But that one shocked me.
Well, I take that back. Hanky Panky was a surprise to me.
Really?
Yeah. I didn't really know you really liked that Dick Tracy movie.
Yeah, I did.
That was
It was visually stunning.
Oh, they tried to recreate the Sunday morning comic, exactly, with very, red, yellow, green. And of course, Dick Tracy's coat was this really incredible yellow. And I thought Warren Beatty did a good job. Who was her character in the...
Oh, I forget the name. But she was the love interest of Dick Tracy. It was almost like Chicago, right? She had that kind of...
So you were surprised by 4 Minutes. You weren't surprised by
4 Minutes.
You weren't
No, I laughed at Cherish and all that because you're so gay with some of that stuff. I just thought that's just...
By the way, I think Cherish was the video that had
Isn't she kicking around in the surf?
Oh, they're mermen.
Yeah.
So there's these guys with the tails, and you're like, and of course she doesn't cast ugly mermen. They were hot-bodied mermen. So maybe why that song works for me is because I connected the visual to the song itself.
And that True Blue, she never looked better. I thought her with that short hair and the pictures of that. You mentioned Vogue. We posted it, but it got taken down on Facebook. But if you go to paulandrews.org, he does a mix, and there's a new mix he put out of Vogue, which is very sophisticated and very elegant. And it's just it's still Vogue, but it has a very updated, sophisticated sound to it. It's fantastic. If you get a chance to go there, are you guys? I know you're young. Do you have any Madonna songs that you guys like, or are you not Madonna fans?
Not really Madonna fans, but Ray of Light. I like Cherish.
Yeah.
Oh, you and John got something in common for a change.
John, of course, but I didn't listen to her too much. Said she's an icon, of course,
Yeah.
but I haven't listened to her too much, to be honest.
I never had an album, but I've heard all the hits.
I
a
don't
million
dislike her
times.
though. You know, I'll probably be rocking out to one of her tunes and not even, you know.
And her videos were like the only porn I had as a
Yeah,
kid.
that's a good point too. Her and like Mariah Carey, perhaps.
With those
Janet
pointy
Jackson,
breasts.
maybe too. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Janet Jackson. That's a good one.
Papa don't preach.
Yeah. Now you know a star that a rock star or a pop star that's far bigger. I think if I could be is why did I just space on her name? Kylie Minogue.
Bigger than who?
Than Madonna, because Kylie Minogue, Madonna was a very U.S.-centric thing. Kylie has worldwide appeal.
Really?
Yeah, and so when it's just one of those funny things where like you'd say to a European, like, yeah, oh, you into Madonna? Like, Madonna, oh yeah, we heard of her, but how about Kylie? Because she was big for a long time. So
I've never been to a Madonna concert. I always wanted to go.
we were, I felt like the movie Truth or Dare, was it Truth or Dare? Yeah. The black and white behind the scenes. You kind of felt like you were at a Madonna concert because she did you got to see that whole concert over the course of that movie. And that's the one with the Gaultier, the pointed tit bra thing. And
that's performance art, isn't it? I mean, she's very much a visual.
And one of the things I think she did so well was she knew how to use that video and the stage stuff for her. Definitely, she was a good performance artist.
And a great business person. I mean, she had said, I'm not the greatest singer in the world, but she was able to, for somebody that's had the longevity and continue, it sounds trite, but to reinvent herself. Everybody thought when she came out with Ray of Light that it was a little too techno with the sounding and stuff, and then she just keeps putting them out. So happy birthday, Madonna. We're all getting old.
Speak for yourself.
What do you think? Hey, be sure to follow along. So next week, we're doing our ice cream trip.
Called
Pursue Your Scoops. Hashtag. But if you go to, you'll see it on our Facebook page. So go like us at focusgroupradio.com, and we'll be putting pictures up there of our journey. We may have my dogs with us, Spike and Trixie.
I'm hoping.
And we'll keep you posted on where we are. If you live in the Eastern PA area and want to join us for trail along trying ice cream, John says we can't eat 12 ice creams. Well, we're going to have to.
I've decided we can. As long as we variety, like you already told me, there's a variety.
Get a cup of vanilla, and we could each have a spoon.
Or I saw on some of the sites that there was a waffle thing.
There's a waffle
thing.
And
they wrap it into a cone, and
there's milkshakes. We might have to bring a cooler. We'll see. So, hey, thank you, John. Thank you, Garrett and John. Thanks to our friends at Deep Discount. Be sure to go to focusgroupradio.com and click on the Deep Discount logo. Right now, there's a special code, FG15, if you want to go and shop. You have until August 31st to save additional dollars there. Thanks to our friends at Volkswagen of America. We are taking out our all-tracks for the long-term test when we do our Pursue Your Scoops ice cream tour. There's also some great deals going on now with their summer end clearance events. So if you're interested in looking for a car, be sure to put them on your list. They've also got this quirky, you and I talked about it, electric car ad going on that's not really identified as Volkswagen, except if you read the little fine print underneath.
Electrify America.
Yeah, so which is pretty cool. So everyone have a great week, and we'll see you on the road. Take care.
It's the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Formerly on Sirius XM Satellite Radio and now accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.
That was a stunning focus group.